Hi, welcome back to another episode of Embroidery Hub. On a previous episode, we explained how to actually embroider on the side of a cap, and from that video we got lots of great feedback, but from it they also had questions as far as to, well, how do you embroider on the back of a cap? Which is why on today's episode we'll be covering just that. Now, when it comes to embroidering on the back of a cap, a lot of people are under the impression that since it's a cap, it should be on the cap driver. However, that's far from the truth. Today we're actually going to show you different methods that don't require the cap driver on how to embroider on the back of caps. One of them being using your regular traditional hoop, and the other being using the 8-in-1 frame. And so on today's episode we're actually going to cover how to embroider on the back of caps using both of those methods. Okay, so the first method that we're going to be showing you today is how to do it with the regular frame. Now, when it comes to the regular frame, before getting started, you're going to have to go ahead and adjust the frame a bit more bigger than usual, only because of the hat straps in the back. Depending on the hat, this may vary. This hat, since it has Velcro straps on the back, it's pretty thick and it's going to get caught with the belt, so I need this to be much more wider. Of course, depending on your different structured hat, it may be that it's a fitted cap where it's completely covered. It's going to be much easier with that method. And then the snapbacks that close with the holes in place, that one is actually much easier than this one that has the Velcro. The Velcro is much thicker. So that is why we're utilizing this one, because it's the most difficult one out of all. Now, to embroider the back of the cap, you're going to need a corner side of a table. That's what's going to make this possible. And so what we're going to do here is you're going to take your ring for the hoop and place it right at the corner of the table where it meets both edges. Then we'll take our backing. For this project we're going to use tearaway. That's what you should be using when embroidering on caps. And so we're going to place it onto our hoop. And now the reason why we want the corner of the table is because it's going to allow us to essentially place the cap over the ring itself. And this is where we're going to push in onto the cap. Okay. Now when it comes to centering it, it's going to take a bit of practice to get, but remember that this side of the hoop with the U shape facing to the right is what you can use to kind of guide yourself to make sure that it's nice and centered. So as you can see, it's now nice and centered. At this point, all you would have to do is just tighten up the frame so you have a nice tight grip there. And now we're ready to go ahead and hoop it. So when hooping it, you're going to hoop the frame as if it were the same regular frame, regardless if it's a cap. And so they'll go in just the same way. Now, one key difference here is that since we're using our C-frame, since we didn't pick cap, it didn't flip the logo itself. And so that's something that you're going to have to remember to do when doing it with this method. So you can see right now it says Ricoma, but it's just right side up. And so we're going to have to go into design set and manually go into the setting where it actually flips our design 180 degrees. Then when we click OK, now you can see it's upside down because it is going to embroider exactly how it's on here. At this point, all I have to do now is just go ahead and make sure that I center my design on the cap. And once I have found my center, I'll just go ahead and trace the design. All right, and it looks good, and now we're ready to start. All right, so there you go. You've now embroidered on the back of a cap using the regular hoop. So we'll just go ahead and just tear off our tearaway. And there you have it. So now we're going to move on and do the same thing we just did, but using the 8-in-1 hoop. Alrighty, so for the 8-in-1 hoop, the one that we're going to utilize is the D-shaped frame. This is going to make it much more easier to capture the back of the cap. And so the way this works is that we're going to take our adhesive backing And so once we peel it off, we want to make sure that we place our adhesive backing facing up. And then we're going to come at the corner. This you could do it on the edge of the table to make it easier. To just get it nice and flat there. And then any excess, of course, you can just go ahead and peel off. All right, so once you finish applying the adhesive backing, again, the corner of the table is going to be useful for this method as well. And so when we have the frame lined up right with the edge of the table as we did before with the regular frame, again, you're going to use it so that you can get deep into the hat. And so as you can imagine, this was going to be much easier to actually go ahead and center it. And then you want to go ahead and make sure you press it nice and firm. Okay. So then once we have that set up, the next step is going to be placing the frame. And so your frame's going to go on the arms using the same position if it were your regular A, B, or C hoop. Once it's in place, then we can go ahead and slot in the frame that we're using. Make sure it's in place, then we just clamp it down. Now once it's here, all I have to do is actually go ahead and center my needle. Now remember, same thing as we did with the frame, you're going to have to make sure that you go into design set and you go ahead and flip your design 180 degrees. Here we've already done so because it was already done with the previous embroider that we did. So now all I have to do is just center my needle. And that looks right about good. Just go ahead and do a quick trace. All right, that looks good. All right, so we've now finished embroidering on the 8-in-1 device for the back of the cap. And so as you can see, as far as quality of the embroidery, it's pretty much the same. The only difference was that you can see it was much more efficient hooping with the 8-in-1 device, and that's the benefit of having the 8-in-1 device. But regardless, it's still possible either way. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, well, what we did was just embroidering letters straight across. And some may be wondering, well, what about if you wanted to catch the arc of the back of the cap? That is possible. However, it's a bit more tricky because it's going to be dependent on the design itself. You're going to have to make sure that the diameters or the perimeter of the design is actually forming with the back of your cap. So it's possible, but take into consideration that it's going to be a bit more tricky. I want to thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to our channel. I also want to invite you to connect with us and other embroiderers in our Facebook support group, where you can ask questions and share knowledge. You'll find the link to the group in the description and a link to our website as well. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.